Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second edition of CertiK Product Insights. I'm your host, Aaron Leibowitz, and joined today again by Kayvon. Kayvon, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Aaron?
Doing well, thank you. Looks like we are having some trouble with streaming to Theta today. So if you guys are seeing this from Theta, let me know in the chat. If you're having issues, do go over to Twitter or YouTube where we are also live. Either way, let me know if it's working in the chat below. So today, I think we're going to focus on a different project than last time. Do you want to go ahead and share your screen and pull that up for the guests?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. We actually did mention on the Twitter, so it's not a surprise. Today we are talking about crypto.com, the biggest, most quickly rising exchange I've seen in a long time. Let's dive in here. So this is what you see when you land at CertiK.com. Scrolling down, you'll see lots and lots of projects you recognize. Right there at number 29, let's click into crypto.com. This is the traditional Skynet landing page for any given project. Kayvon, why don't you take us through what we're seeing on this security score up top?
Yeah, absolutely. So crypto.com obviously has been a very popular crypto exchange and also a very popular crypto token by proxy. And they do have Skynet with us. So what we're able to do is track kind of their real-time security score. As we can see here, their score has been relatively stable and pretty high, kind of bouncing between that 90 to 92 range. You can see here the 30-day low is around an 86, and then the 30-day high is around a 93. So relatively stable, a very strong and seemingly safe project.
Excellent. Yeah, that what was that, a 93, their security score? It's a good looking score right there. Yeah. So on the right side here under key statistics for CRO, you're going to see that Skynet is active, that they have an audit report, which you can view down below, some market cap and 24-hour change data, as well as a token price. Right above that, you will notice a grouping of links. That's something I do want to highlight, as a lot of people do fall victim to fake links, leading them to a landing page that looks like what they're expecting, but might actually be hosted by a malicious actor. The links on CertiK.com are something that you can use to know that you're going to the correct destination. So for example, let's pull up crypto.com, the website. You should always double check URLs regardless, but being able to click on a link that the project has provided for us is definitely a nice help. Scrolling through here, you will see their new and improved campaign that they have launched recently. We were just talking about Matt Damon being the face of that. It's quite the name they have there. Definitely very retail-oriented exchange, focusing on UI and UX especially. Yeah, why don't we continue down here and start looking at Skynet?
Sure, yeah. So you can see kind of before we get to the Skynet part, crypto.com is one of our oldest clients. We performed the audit with them in 2018 of the CRO token. So it's been around for quite a long time. And then as we scroll down a little bit further, as you mentioned, Aaron, we can see kind of in real time the different metrics that are measured by Skynet. Again, Skynet tracks 6 different security primitives that cover a whole host of different things, from static scanning, which is kind of the on-chain scanning of the code. It seems very strong, 90, kind of a healthy score of 96. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of other metrics, also kind of very strong across the board. Everything seems pretty safe and pretty healthy from an on-chain monitoring side from Skynet, which is basically how they're getting the high scores that they have been recently on the security side. Something that's really cool about crypto.com, Aaron, is they recently rebranded one of the largest popular basketball arenas in the country, previously known as the Staples Center in LA. It's where the LA Lakers and Clippers play. It's now known as the crypto.com arena. And that happened around early November. So what we can do here using Skynet is we can go in and see sort of the activity, social activity that this announcement caused a while back. So I'm just going to change up the filters a little bit so that we get like a broader view, sorting it by week over the last 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And as we can see, kind of on the right-hand side, we can see the number of followers that their Twitter account has, and then the bar chart shows the growth of followers. So a
I believe
very
that's
clear.
a weekly new followers. Oh, daily new followers.
Yeah, exactly. It's daily new followers over the last 3 months, but you can see sort of this surge in that November timeframe.
Oh yeah.
In total followers, and kind of a continued, it's leveled off a little bit, but like just kind of a continued daily growth of around 5 to 7,000 new followers every day, which is super impressive.
For
I
sure.
think from a sentiment side too, we're also seeing mostly non-negative recognition. About 16%, 16.8% of all the Twitter chatter that's happening right now for Crypto.com has been positive, 77% neutral, and then about 6% of it has been negative. So overall, a net score of about 94% in terms of non-negative recognition, which is very strong.
Absolutely. And speaking about what was the Staples Center, that has always been a sort of historic venue for, if you want to talk about the Lakers, if you want to talk about all the concerts that it's hosted and different events it's hosted over the last 20 something years. That's going to be a big thing for everyone to be like, oh, I played Crypto.com Arena last night. That'll be a huge thing for musicians to speak about. You're going to see that in biopics on musicians in the future. All sorts of stuff. It's definitely impressive. But to mention, they are not the only one who have done that recently, actually. I forgot what it was called in Miami before, but it's now the FTX Arena that I'm not sure if that's where the Heat play or if it's another arena in Miami, but it is quite a big boom for crypto in general to see two different crypto companies taking over major venues in the US.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the social keyword aggregation a bit here. When looking at this, we see these are sort of top mentions on Twitter, or most common words mentioned on Twitter with tagging at CRO or at crypto.com. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So basically what we can see is crypto.com. It's a very, as you mentioned, retail focused exchange. They do have a very broad range of tokens that they offer. So that's why we can see a lot of these retail oriented tokens kind of popping up as well in relation to their name. So obviously kind of the cash tag Crow is their token name, but then you can also see with them Dogecoin, SHIB, Baby Dogecoin, talking about NFTs, Buy. Overall, I think there's nothing that's unusual that stands out in terms of like their social keyword aggregation. I think it's very clear that their affiliation with these other tokens is there, and people are chatting about them. And I think there are some particular coins that are always a little bit more popular than others that obviously hosted on their exchange that we can see here.
Absolutely. And as you said, pretty typical, especially for an exchange, to see all the different tokens mentioned beyond just their own,
Totally.
as that is their main line of business. So should we go down to the insight section and talk a little bit about what we see going on here?
Yeah, totally. So I'm going to go over here and change the views to 90-day views just so we get a little bit more data on there and are able to see kind of all the activity once the announcement was changed. The announcement came for the crypto.com arena. So on the left side, we have token price that's delivered directly on chain. And what we can see is that the token price surged to almost $1 by the end of November. This is after the announcement came. I think before that it was around 10 cents or so. So obviously like a huge surge, a little bit of a leveling off now. But in terms of on-chain activity, which is sort of what the new insights section of Skynet is able to deliver us, we're able to see like a clear surge in terms of token transfers, daily transactions, daily active users, and again, all starting that beginning of November timeframe, when the announcement came out and when that marketing push really kind of took off. So very, very clear indicators that we can see on chain. Since then, obviously, there has been a bit of a leveling off. If we look at the 30-day view, still kind of consistent numbers in terms of activity on chain, but slowly dwindling. And I think a lot of that is obviously correlated to the market conditions, which haven't been great recently. But something interesting definitely to track kind of going forward after this initial hype wave of the stadium announcement takes place. Something else that's cool about the crypto.com token in particular is that it is an exchange token. So it has a lot of different types of utility that when using the crypto.com exchange. For example, you get discounted trading fees if you if you hold CRO tokens, you're able to get some benefits using the Crypto.com debit cards. If you stake some CRO tokens, so a lot of different ways that you can kind of measure activity, and we're able to use Skynet for that to see sort of how the exchange is doing and how many people are actually participating in these sorts of programs.
Absolutely. And to add to that, these metrics like daily transactions and daily active users are definitely the type of metrics that we would expect to see and want to be following to look at, hey, how is adoption going following a marketing campaign? What is the trend looking like moving forward? And using this historical data to predict future patterns is a very common tool in the sort of trader's toolbook. But of course, as you mentioned, we are at the whim of market conditions. When the market overall is down, you can expect to see the same pretty much across all tokens. If you can find those one or two that don't follow that, please let me know. I could really use that. Otherwise,
same here. Yeah.
So on the left side, we didn't quite talk about the actual numbers rather than the charts of active users, token transfers, and transactions. The daily change in token transfers, for example, being up 30% is interesting. Is there anything that you sort of make out of that metric? It sort of flies in the face of the rest of what we're seeing. I mean, I suppose the buys and sells are token transfers, so it doesn't matter which way the market goes for that.
Totally, yeah. So this is looking at specifically the ERC20 version of the Crypto.com token. So there's kind of two different angles to look at it. The way that Skynet looks at it is everything is done directly on chain. Crypto.com may have some additional metrics that they look at based off like inter-exchange activity that we don't have purview into. So just kind of keep that in mind when looking at this data. And so what we can see here, as you mentioned, in terms of token transfers, there's a significant spike on the 1 day. I suspect a lot of that is probably due to selling, due to the recent market conditions kind of being very volatile, and there's been a pretty big drop off in terms of token price. So likely a lot of people transferring their tokens to exchanges, but it could also indicate some accumulation as well. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to distinguish between the two. But
Sure.
regardless, people are moving the token, and we're seeing a big surge in that.
I'll also be interested to check out maybe next week if Sunday to Monday is just a big daily change because people might not be so active on Sunday doing whatever else they're doing.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely.
So should we continue down here and start looking at some of the liquidity metrics?
Yeah, totally. So again, as I mentioned, Crypto.com is an exchange token. So our liquidity data, it looks at decentralized exchange data, which Crypto.com does have some decentralized exchange pairs, although I don't suspect that these are like the dominant trading pairs in terms of overall trading volume of the token. But nonetheless, what we can see is that, there's been a recent sort of drop off in terms of DEX volume and also liquidity. A lot of that began around the sell-off time frame, kind of near the end of December, and has been continuing in terms of trading volume. Same thing in terms of liquidity, sort of dropping off sort of naturally across the board. What we can see is that the two top liquidity pairs, if you're interested in trading the Crypto.com token on a DEX, the main one is probably going to be on Uniswap that you want to use. We have about $100,000 worth of liquidity on the Uniswap CRO WETH pair. The second largest one comes in at SushiSwap, but hardly any liquidity there. So, again, I think the best thing to do here would be to focus on the Uniswap version of the token rather than going on SushiSwap for this.
Absolutely. And if you're looking to trade a exchange token, you really do want to go look at the exchange itself. They're obviously going to offer you the deepest liquidity. It's pretty much the same for all exchange tokens I've looked at personally. There's not a real reason to trade them on a DEX as opposed to where they're actually going to give you utility, as we mentioned, with trading fee discounts and similar. No,
Totally.
Those are the main incentives behind the token. So let's just click into the top add and top remove liquidity real quick before we move on. I know that it's going to be very low numbers, but we just want to show sort of what data is available here. And there are multiple pages of this data for you guys to look through. Looking at that time frame, how long liquidity has been locked up by top adders or removers is definitely a useful feature for you to sort of look at what's liquidity going to look like moving forward. Am I going to end up somewhere where I hold a bunch of token, don't have liquidity to get out of it or further into it if I'd like to?
Absolutely.
Moving on to the distribution analysis.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what token holder distribution actually means. This is a number of monthly active users or total unique wallets holding token.
It's going to be the latter. So it's going to be the total number of holders of the token. So in general, what we're trying to do with this Skynet token distribution analysis is try to look at, how many people own this token, but then a little more importantly, how much of the supply is held by the top wallets, kind of who are the whales that are the primary controllers of this token and have a lot of influence over it that could possibly manipulate price, or maybe have a lot of confidence in the token project itself, giving a little bit of transparency for investors to get more purview into the larger token holder side of the house. So in terms of total number of holders, there's about 195,000 wallets, close to 196,000 wallets that hold Crypto.com token. One thing that's interesting here is that we see one holder has over 50% of the token supply, but on our top 100 token holders list, what we can see is that top holder is actually a burn address. So to date, about $33 billion worth of Crypto.com tokens have been burned. And I think that's very interesting. The Skynet team is always kind of labeling and trying to uncover who's behind certain wallets. On the burn address side, actually, I investigated this, and it looks like Crypto.com had the largest token burn in history last February, so almost a year ago now. They really kind of took initiative to decentralize the holdings of Crypto.com token, and in general, kind of distribute and disintermediate their blockchain. So that was part of the big initiative where they sent it all to that burn address, and you can kind of see that clearly here.
That's pretty fantastic. That's a really nice thing to see that they're not holding a majority of the token. They're not even necessarily the biggest whale. Looking down here, the Crypto.com multisig 5 and the multisig 7 you see below, as well as the traditional Crypto.com, those are going to be exchange wallets used to fill order volume. Those are, again, providing liquidity rather than a wallet address that somebody's just going to pull liquidity from, dump it all, anything like that. It's it's really nice to see this distribution. The top token holder outside of the burn address, which of course doesn't really count, is 5%. That's quite low compared to a lot of other projects we've looked at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the one other metric that's interesting when you look at top token holder distribution analysis is the rate of growth. So what you can see here on the bottom left is the daily new users in over a 30-day period. So this is the number of net new wallets that have been created that we previously didn't account for, holding the Crypto.com token address. So, a little bit of a decline is what we can see in terms of like the overall trend line. You see the line itself is like the trend, the 7-day moving average, and the bar graph shows kind of the daily averages. So, obviously with the price, as we mentioned, kind of going down, a little bit of a drop off in terms of retail activity that we can see here, but some additional visibility for people, as they're kind of doing their own research to understand what's happening in terms of traction and new growth and new wallets holding this token.
Absolutely. That's pretty fantastic. Let's see, clicking through to, page 2, 3, 4 here. Do just want to show sort of the depth of data that we're pulling here and what you can really see. We quickly dive sub 1% and then into sub 0.1%, which is, again, just very nice distribution to see. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think beyond that, we've sort of covered the CRO Skynet. Anything else that you want to cover before we jump off here today?
No, I think that does it. It's been an interesting couple of weeks for the industry at large. I think with the recent downturn, obviously, we can track a lot of these insights using Skynet, and we can kind of see which projects are holding afloat, showing a little bit of strength. So I would encourage everyone to go on CertiK.com, check it out for yourself, play around with the metrics, look up, which projects have Skynet, and then based off that, you can kind of run through your own analysis like we did today. But yeah,
absolutely. And, let us know what you guys understand, what you don't understand, what we should cover next time. Shoot us any questions you want on Twitter or Telegram. We are here to help you guys use the CertiK product suite. Well, thank you, Kayvon, for joining me again today. I'm sure we will be back within the next week or two with another project.
Absolutely. Thanks, Aaron.
Cheers.